Welcome into PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles from PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. With me, that smiling face, is the managing editor of PressBox and working on a great cover story on Gunnar Henderson that will be out in about over 2 weeks.
Yeah, you bet.
And it's basically going to come out the day pitchers and catchers, I think, are reporting. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, his name is Luke Jackson, and we're going to talk about the Orioles off-season. Ross Grimsley is off. He had an important meeting that he had to attend virtually, and he's going to be unable to join us tonight. But let me tell you about our sponsor, the Costas Inn. Did what you practice what you preach. I talk all the time about their great curbside. Took advantage of it Friday night. Ordered about 7 meals, went out, ordered it online, or everybody called in their orders and paid for it online. Actually, one person picked up the check, wasn't me. And we got all 7 dinners. I went out and picked them up. They're all ready, all packed. Stan and Jane, Richard and Annabelle, Alan and Cheryl, and everybody, and even Ron got his one back. Okay. Everything was packed fantastically. And the food, we did have to heat it up again, but it was absolutely delicious. Costas Inn, we were really thrilled with it. Again, CostasInn.com, not thecostasinn.com, CostasInn.com. You can order your food online, look at the menu, order your food, pay for it online, and then pick it up without even getting out of your car. I did get out of my car, but you don't have to. The Costas Inn, they've been there for over 50 years at 4100 North Point Boulevard. You'll be glad you stopped by and took advantage of their great curbside menu and the whole system. Okay, Costas Inn. Luke, we've got roughly 2 weeks until pitchers and catchers report, and manager Brandon Hyde kind of blows the whistle that spring training has started. I'm starting to get, I know none of the moves individually were sexy. Would have loved to have Chris Bassett rather than Kyle Gibson or Cole Irwin. Would have rather had a couple hit Justin Turner over Adam Frazier. But collectively, the Orioles, to me, they're sailing in a little bit different direction here. They didn't spend a giant amount of money, but they did get 5 real major league players. And that's very different than what they've done since Mike Elias and Brandon Hyde have been here, where, Richard Blyers traded. Cole Sulzer and Tanner Scott, 2 good arms, were traded. They traded Miguel Castro. They traded, what's the shortstop, Galvez they had. They traded Jose Iglesias. The sort of certified major leaguers that they had, if they had value, they were being moved for prospects. And now they've picked up 5 guys. Does that interpretation ring true with you?
Yeah, especially the last move that they made with Irwin, because that was the first time in the Mike Elias era that I can recall that he gave up a very real prospect for major league help and an area of the major league team that they needed to shore up, which was the rotation, particularly the innings that they were going to get out of their rotation because some of the uncertainty with the younger pitchers that they have in that rotation. So Darell Hernandez is a very real prospect. He's got a chance to make to the big leagues with Oakland. He's got a better opportunity to do that with Oakland than he did in Baltimore. But yeah, I think that trade in particular really touched on what you were just talking about. And to your point about bringing in 5, 6, whatever it is, qualified major leaguers, guys who have had all-star seasons in the past, in some cases, this should give Brandon Hyde really 26 qualified major leaguers that he's breaking camp with. He hasn't done that to this point.
Yeah, there's no Rio Ruiz or Chance Cisco in his deck of cards now.
Right. And even last year, there were times where he was writing out a lineup where you had 3 guys that really weren't major leaguers. That shouldn't be the case this year. He should have a lot more depth to choose from in writing out his lineups and putting together a game plan out of the bullpen. So yes, I do think that it is a different kind of year in that respect for Brandon Hyde, even if the payroll is not where it will eventually need to be.
You know, it was interesting. You and I both thought we sort of targeted that Michael Wacha was the last guy out there. And we also thought the Orioles had genuine interest in him.
Mhm.
We're now finding out that Michael Wacha, who I think made, $6 million last year for the Red Sox,
Mhm.
I think, had a very nice season, 11-2 and 23, 24 starts or something like that. And would have fit in very nicely here. We're finding out that one of the obstacles may have been his asking price. He was apparently is still looking, and that's why I think he's still looking for a 2-year, $30 million contract. And this is a guy who's had several injuries. No question we would have liked him. I think if he was in that 1 for 8, 1 for 9, 1 for maybe even 10, they
Mhm.
might have popped for him. Instead, like you said, they gave up a real prospect for Cole Irwin.
Right. And I think you're absolutely right that if he's asking for a multi-year deal, that would explain why he's still out there. And I think if you're Michael Wacha, you're looking at guys like Ross Stripling, who has had trouble staying
And
healthy.
Sean Manaea
Sean
getting 2
Manaea
years at 25.
he got like these guys all got multi-year deals, and you're wondering, well, why haven't I got a multi-year deal? Well, I could tell you that he's had a lot more trouble staying healthy than those other guys.
Yep.
And number two, he is totally like a 5-inning pitcher. He's a 2 times through the order pitcher. And that's how the Red Sox treated him last year. And even in a very nice season for Michael Wacha last year, he only threw about 120 innings.
Yeah.
So is that just a bridge? If you were to sign him, is that just a bridge to the trade deadline where you can get someone better? Like, it doesn't seem like this is a guy that any team wants to have around for multiple years.
Yeah.
Have on their books for not just 2023, but 2024. So that would explain why the Orioles passed on him and went the trade route in Irwin. And I think Irwin really brings a lot of what they were looking for. Number one, they get a left-hander in their rotation because they were set not to have any lefties in their rotation until John Means comes back, and no one really knows
Unless Bruce Zimmerman got like Carlos Rodon over the offseason.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so he does bring those innings. And for me, what this does, this gives them a little flexibility with Grayson Rodriguez. Now, interesting to me, Mike Elias was on XM yesterday, and he said that he expects, again, Grayson Rodriguez to break camp in rotation with the big league club. And so does that mean like a 6-man rotation where you ease him in? With that 6-man rotation, you have a piggyback with Austin Voth. Does something like that happen? But now you have those options in order to do that because you have a big-time innings guy near the front of your rotation, along with Kyle Gibson, another bulk innings guy. So you have some certainty with those 2 guys that allows you to ease in some other guys into the rotation.
I think also that's where I get into the Michael Givens pickup. The second half of last year, I think we all just sort of said, the real Keegan Aiken is reasserting himself. Not really that great, when probably he and a bunch of those bullpen arms down the stretch were so overused because the starters still weren't giving really bigger chunks.
Yep.
And I think this pitching staff and the depth they've got down in the minor leagues too is built again for pitchers, the starters not pitching real deep all the time. You know, I think that you're going to see a lot of 5 2/3, 6 1/3 as kind of the max out of your starter.
Right. And it's interesting. You mentioned that being the max. Kyle Bradish and Dean Kramer did flash last year, in the last, I would say 4 to 5 weeks against the Astros of all teams, that they were really, really good in those starts. And they showed, and I know Jim Palmer talked about this on your show, a couple months back, but they showed what kind of starting pitchers they could be in going the distance or close to it in those games, and what the Orioles are going to need from those guys. And you can include Wells in this group as well. They need Wells, Bradish, Kramer, who all were about 110, 120, 125 innings last year, to really take that step forward to show the Orioles that they are major league caliber starters. And what I mean by that, they can hold up through an entire season, can pitch 160 to 180 innings and give you that starter workload. They're going to get an opportunity to show that they can do that. Sure, it looks like that. Now can they take advantage of it? Because all of those guys spent time on the IL last year, some significantly. Kramer started this season on the IL. Bradish kind of got like a break in the middle of the season, almost on the IL, and then Tyler Wells, I think, just wore down. So those three guys really have to step to the forefront and show that they can become those major league starters.
Did you end up watching or listening to the Cole Irwin presser?
No.
Okay. I asked him, not Cole Sulser, Cole Irwin last year pitched 181 innings, on or about, and he finished up with a 3.98 ERA, which is decent today.
Okay.
Anything under 4.5 even is considered decent. You get below 3.7, it's starting to get real nice. On August about the 18th or 20th, he pitched like a 5 or 6 inning shutout against the Marlins, and not a full game shutout, 5 or 6 innings. And when he left that game, his earned run average was 3.16.
Mhm.
His next 6 starts, spanning 32 and 2/3 innings, he gave up 30 earned runs in 32 and 2/3 and 59 hits and walks. So his whip must have been, going into that streak, a shade above 1 until those last
Which is really good.
2 innings. So I asked him the other day, I said, what happened to you? Was it like fatigue? And he said he thought that he probably hadn't built himself up stamina wise the way he really needed to do. It sounds like he knows that he needed to work a little harder this year on conditioning and not overdo the beginning of the year and pace himself more for the full season. He did give this little insight, though. He said that normally when he does sidelines this time of year, he's usually at 83 to 84 miles an hour. He said he was throwing about 90 and not really feeling like it was max. I think there might be a key to be unlocked that turns him into an even better pitcher than he was last year.
Well, this current administration does not trade for guys on a whim. They have a plan for them, and they have an idea of how they want to work with them to get them better. Now, the two things that really stand out with Irwin on the negative side is that the home road splits are big because he pitches in Oakland Coliseum, or pitch there, big foul territory, big outfield, and for a fly ball pitcher, that can be very good. That can be very beneficial. The other thing is just the amount of home runs he gave up, particularly on the road. Now, the left field wall at Camden Yards will probably help in that regard, particularly with a left-handed pitcher facing a lot of right-handed heavy lineups. That's number one. But I'm curious to see what kind of ideas Brandon Hyde and Chris Holt have to cut down on those home runs and maybe tick up the swings and misses a little bit for.
I think that's the game plan with him, is to maybe there's a way to get more swing and misses out of him.
Yeah, he's got a good changeup, and we all know that Holt's very good with changeup, so maybe that's part of the plan. I don't know, but they acquired him for a reason. They, in the sense that they have a plan for him in terms of how to get better.
All right. I alluded, we spent most of the time talking about Cole Irwin, just picked up again for Darryl Hernandez. And the pitcher they got in the deal, what's his name? Tim Verbitsky.
That sounds right.
6'7" right-hander. Do you think I'm sniffing up or barking up the right tree? That I have a sense this guy was from Penn State. I have a sense that this wasn't a guy that they just started studying in the last 2 days. I'd say that this guy might have been on their pile of possibilities to draft.
Oh, there's I don't think there's
that
a
way
question
about
that
Tovich, McDermott. I think they're not just simply guys that they pick up.
Oh, right. I mean, they probably have draft reports on all those guys.
Yeah.
And their pro scouts probably follow those guys and see how they've developed, see how their stuff is getting better, and see if there's more room to grow and report back. And they probably cross-check them with the draft reports, see what makes sense. And I absolutely think that they probably refer back to their draft reports. Absolutely.
This trade, the way it played out, is flattering to the type of prospect Hernandez is that
Mhm.
we commanded a second pitcher and somebody who, frankly, may take 2 or 3 years to get to the big leagues, but most likely will make the big leagues sometime if health is not an issue for him.
Oh, absolutely. And I do think that Hernandez is a good prospect. I saw
Yep.
a lot of him at Aberdeen. He's a talented infielder who's got really good contact skills. And for me, he's got good bat speed too. And I think there's more power there. And I think the Athletics probably think there's more power there. And maybe when you get him out of Ripken Stadium, get him into a more hitter-friendly environment out west, the power numbers go up. There's some things he's got to work on. But I think this is definitely a major league infielder.
Right.
This is a guy that, was not on the top, list of prospects for the Orioles. So this fact that they can dip in the depth of their system and get someone who can actually help them at the major league level in a meaningful way, I think that's a good step for the Orioles.
All right. And we agree. We've talked about it a couple of times during the offseason, both on Zooms and privately, that the Gibson was really a trade-off on Lyle.
Yeah, they think that Gibson, and really it's the same money because they bought out Lyles for $1 million.
Right.
So it's the exact same money. The money's a wash. They think that Gibson has a better chance of being good in 2023 than Lyles. That's what that tells me.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Now, the other couple pickups, we mentioned Givens, who I think helps strengthen the bullpen. That leaves 2 more guys that they picked up of significance. The backup catcher, James McCann, and the second baseman / outfielder / I think possibly a little bit of first base is Adam Frazier. Your thoughts on those 2 pickups?
Well, Frazier was an all-star, I believe, with Pittsburgh in 2021.
That was the year he was traded to San Diego.
And I don't, if I remember correctly, I don't think he had a great run with San Diego after that. And then he had a very good run in Seattle, even though he had a really big hit in the playoffs for them against Toronto. I think he might have had the series winning hit. But anyway, prior to 2022, I mean, this has been a really solid major league infielder for a while, mostly with Pittsburgh. And I know that when he was signed, he said that his thoughts of what he had to do to get back to that form really matched up with the Orioles' thoughts, what they told him over Zoom or whatever when they were recruiting him. So again, the Orioles don't sign guys just on a whim. They have a plan for these guys. They have an idea in terms of how they can get better. That certainly seems to be the case with Frazier. To your earlier point, I also think that Frazier gives Brandon Hyde some flexibility in terms of where does he want to play certain guys on the infield against righties, against lefties. I think that flexibility will really help Brandon. That's something that he had last year that he hadn't had in past years. What he had in past years, he had a lot of guys who could play a lot of positions poorly. Last year, he actually had a lot of guys who could play positions well. I think Frazier fits into that mold as well. And then McCann, he's another guy looking for a bounce back. That's been a theme of what the Orioles have looked for in free agency, this offseason, was looking for guys on bounce back years. And Gibson fits that mold as well. I think that they're hoping that McCann's batted ball profile from last year is a lot more indicative of his 2023 to come than his actual results, which were really, really not good. He hit like 180, I think, and it was a tough
injury prone season. And it was on the Zoom with him, he alluded to the fact that he got into some bad habits in 21 and he didn't play enough last year, wasn't healthy enough to really work on fixing them. He says he was aware of them. I think they also think he's an upgrade defensively over what else they have.
Yeah, and if you look at McCann's track record, particularly prior to last year, this is a guy who's hit lefties well. And that was a problem for the Orioles last year, hitting left-handed pitching. if he can get back to that form, maybe he could DH a little bit against lefties, play first base against lefties, sometimes spell Ryan Mountcastle, who needs a day off. But I really think that they're banking on, number one, the leadership capabilities he's shown behind the plate to date in his career, his defensive acumen that he's shown to date in his career, and that, again, the batted ball profile last year was a lot better than his results. That is more real, more indicative of what James McCann is rather than the results, which, again, not good last year.
And again, it's important. It's an important position, a backup catcher role, because
They're going to play a lot.
He's going to play 45, 50 games, not 18 or 22 games.
Right.
He's going to be out there a fair amount because Brandon clearly doesn't want to have Adley catching 145, 150 games.
Right. They can't afford him. If he gets hurt, they're done. So,
yeah.
I mean, he has to keep Adley healthy.
Right. Okay. That maps it out, the 5 picks. The Orioles won 83 games last year. I'm getting a little excited by, I'm not ready to print up playoff tickets yet, but I'm beginning to think that the Orioles may be an intriguing team because of what we haven't factored in yet. And it's not a given that it's going to happen, but there's a fairly good chance that Rutschman offensively will improve over what he did last year.
Yep.
And that Gunnar Henderson will be a force to be reckoned with.
Yep.
And then I think it boils down to Hayes, Mountcastle, Mateo, whether they can really be solid contributors 7 out of 10 games, where they're contributing. So
it's funny that you mentioned Mateo. When they were playing their best ball last year, and
he was hot.
It was during that 10-game winning streak in that area, that late July, August area. Their best player during that stretch was Jorge Mateo.
No.
He was the driver of that streak. And during that time, we're thinking, do we have a quality shortstop on our hands? And then he cooled off again, because prior to that streak, he'd remember Richie Martin had played at shortstop a couple games over him because Mateo's bat was so down, and the at bats were so lousy. And then he really started to step up in that regard. And during that stretch, he was their best player. And it'll be interesting to see with him and Mullins, new bases, right? Bigger bases.
Yep.
How many bases can they steal? The thing with Mateo is, to steal bases, what do you got to do?
You got to get on first base. Interesting. Team on base percentage last year was like 305 collectively for the whole team.
Gotta be
I
better.
think a key figure to watch, are they closer to like a 318, 320, 322?
That's where we need to be. Yep.
That's where you need to be to be able to contend. You really want to be at 335 as a team.
Right.
I don't see that happening.
They're not there yet. Right.
But maybe with Cowser and Henderson and Rutschman, once Cowser's established, they may start to be that type of team.
Yep. And that's been the plan in the minor leagues. They've really, it's funny, like prior to this current regime, every young hitter that would come up would tend to be over aggressive, right? Yeah. That would always be what would happen. That was just that would be the kind of hitters that they would target in the draft. And that's how they really wouldn't develop the kind of patience that you needed. And they would remain over aggressive in the big leagues. With this current regime, they really target guys in the draft who have that swing decision part down, and they really hammer home on that in the minor leagues. And you saw it start to come to fruition in the major leagues last year with Adley Rutschman, Taron Vavra, and Gunnar Henderson all had double-digit walk rates, which I can't remember the last time the Orioles had 3 rookies with double-digit walk rates. I just can't. I can't remember when that would have been. So yeah, that seems to be part of the plan, so to speak.
Before we get off the air, just a quick rundown of who. Let me see if that shows up there.
Okay.
This is my who's going to make the Orioles.
Okay.
Mountcastle,
Okay.
Frazier, Mateo, Gunnar Henderson, Urias, Rutschman, McCann, Hayes, Mullins, Santander, Vavra,
Mhm.
McKenna,
Mhm.
and then I think one of Cordero or Stowers makes
Okay.
the team. Pitching wise, Gibson, Irwin, Bradish, Kramer, Rodriguez, Wells, Voth, Aiken, Baker, Tate, Perez, Givens, Bautista, with possibly Politi
The Rule 5 guy. Yeah.
beating out somebody who either gets hurt or something like that.
Right.
I think I'm pretty right on the money with where
Yeah,
I'm
when
at.
you're saying that roster, number one, that sounds about right. Number two, those sound like 25 or 26 major leaguers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know that Brandon Hyde's, looking at a similar list, kind of, happy about how far they've come, in a relatively short period of time. And it takes a while to raise the floor, so to speak. When you're starting where they were in 2019, where they only had a handful of guys who are really capable of succeeding in the major leagues, to where they are now, it takes a while to get that floor where it needs to be.
All right. Hey, it's been really fun charting this and discussing it. I'm getting pretty excited for the pitchers and catchers. I'm going to be down there March 7th through the 15th in Sarasota. And
Okay.
I'm excited to see some baseball.
Absolutely.
Now that the football season is down to one game. Who you like in the Super Bowl?
Ooh. I think the Eagles are a 1.5 favorite, if I'm not
I think
mistaken,
they're a
2.5,
point or a point and a half.
something like that. I'm leaning Eagles right now.
I'm leaning Eagles too.
I think they're a little bit healthier. And I like what Nick Sirianni's got going on. I'm leaning Eagles.
I like him a lot. And I'll just say one thing in case some of the Raven brass are watching this baseball Zoom today. Jeffrey Lurie fired Andy Reid, who was a pretty damn good coach,
Mhm.
and getting results very similar to what John Harbaugh was getting right now,
Mhm.
last 5 or 6 years, and brought in Doug Peterson, who promptly won a Super Bowl. When things went south with him, he quickly turned around and hired Nick Sirianni. And I think the Ravens have they've stayed too long at the dance with John Harbaugh. That's not to say that Harbaugh couldn't go somewhere else and be successful. I don't think a good organization should be scared to death of letting go of a coach whose voice may not carry what it once did here in town. I'll just say that.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right. That wraps us up for this day. Luke has got to get back to work because he's working his tail off on the Gunnar Henderson cover story that comes out in about 2.5 weeks. I'll be back Thursday night. Stein and I don't have a guest yet, but I can tell you that UMBC basketball coach Jim Ferry is going to be on next week, the 9th. And then on the 16th, I have booked Commissioner Jackie McWilliams of the CIAA and Al Hutchinson, who's been vitally important in making that deal with the CIAA. And he is with Visit Baltimore. So I'm excited about those two shows coming on. Ross will be back with me next week, and we'll hope to have a guest of some repute. Not that Luke Jackson doesn't have repute. He's got repute. All right. For both of us, Luke Jackson, Stan the Fan, we're over and out. Talk to you soon.